Protesters have stormed Trump Tower, but there's just one problem. I don't think they know exactly why they're protesting. And if they do, well, then that makes matters a lot worse. Here's a look at the lobby of Trump Tower, where protesters are currently occupying the first floor. So what they were chanting there was "Free Mahmoud, free them all." And who they're referring to is Mahmoud Khalil, who got his green card to study here in the States. He ended up getting his master's degree at Columbia, but there's just one problem. He was helping organize not just pro-Palestinian protests, but Hamas-aligned protests at both Columbia University and Barnard. In fact, I've made a video previously about the violent protests at Barnard, which were so bad that at least one university employee was sent to the hospital. Well, the Trump administration ended up arresting him, revoking his green card, and they're currently trying to deport him. But of course, the Democrats aren't having that. The Democrats, instead of siding with Trump, they're actually taking the side of Mahmoud Khalil. And that's why they're protesting at Trump Tower. You can actually listen to this in their chants where they refer to the Trump administration as Nazis. Despite the fact that Mahmoud isn't even an American citizen, the left, the Democrats, the media, they're all accusing President Trump of infringing on his First Amendment rights. But there's just one problem for them. The law, the Constitution, the Supreme Court all say that the Trump administration has every right to do what it's currently doing. But before I get into that, you're probably wondering how these protesters even got into Trump Tower at the first place. After all, it's been fortified and there's a ton of security ever since Trump announced his first run in 2015. So it turns out these protesters in New York, it's all still very cold. So they wore jackets, they wore sweaters to cover up their matching t-shirts as well as their signs. So in this video clip, you can actually see them taking off their outerwear before they protest. Fortunately, NYPD arrived immediately, and they expertly helped defuse the situation. They prevented it from getting a lot worse. There was obviously a lot of tension, a lot of energy, and this is what it looked like when they arrived on the scene.
You are occupying these premises unlawfully and without permission. I am ordering you to leave these premises now. If you refuse to leave, you may be subject to arrest. This is the New York City Police Department. You are occupying these premises unlawfully and without permission. I am ordering you to leave these premises now. If you refuse to leave, you may be subject to arrest.
So instead of coming in immediately, barging in and causing a confrontation, they aired that warning saying that if they didn't leave, they would be subject to arrest. And arrest them they did. It is currently 1:22 right now as I'm filming this. I'm going to show you video. Protesters are still being escorted out of there. Now, from outside, this is what it looked like as protesters were taken out of the building. Many of them kept trying to come back in. So it's been a pretty long process trying to clear the lobby at Trump Hotel. Now, many of you are wondering, well, Daniel, I've heard some things. Maybe the media has told you that non-citizens have the same constitutional rights as American citizens, and that just isn't true. And the Supreme Court has already validated this. They've confirmed this in their Citizen United versus FEC ruling in 2010. So in that ruling, they wrote, the government routinely places special restrictions on the speech rights of students, prisoners, members of armed forces, foreigners, and its own employees. When such restrictions are justified by a legitimate governmental interest, they do not necessarily raise constitutional problems. And then emphasis added here, the constitutional rights of certain categories of speakers in certain contexts are not automatically coextensive with the rights that are normally accorded to members of our society. Basically, our government has every right to look out not just for its own interests, but our interests as a nation as a whole. And while I am a free speech absolutist, even I realize that there are legal limits to free speech. For example, you can't incite violence, and you can't incite someone to break the law. The Supreme Court has reaffirmed this multiple times. And this all comes back to haunt Mahmoud Khalil, because he's one of the leaders of CUAD, Columbia University Apartheid Divest. And they are on record saying that their goal, or at least one of their goals, is, quote, to destroy Western civilization. Again, what I just read from Citizens United versus FEC, the government has every right to look after not just its own interests, but the interests of the entire country. So if Mahmoud is here trying to not just incite all these protests, but the organization wants to destroy Western civilization, isn't that a threat to the interests of the United States? This has been confirmed by multiple news sources. So first, a local ABC News affiliate. Anti-Israel Columbia students call for, quote, total eradication of Western civilization. And in fact, within this article, they provide a direct link to CUAD's Instagram post, which states, we stand in full solidarity with every movement for liberation in the global south. And then in there, our intifada is an internationalist one. We are fighting for nothing less than the liberation of all people. And I'll get into even more details on that because it's a lot worse than that one quote. But the Denver Gazette, and as you can tell based on the name Denver, this paper is not very right-friendly, not very Israel-friendly, but even they report column, students declare war on Western civilization. This was published September in 2024, so not even a year ago. The New York Post confirms Columbia University's radical anti-Israel group seeks total eradication of Western civilization. So after all of these articles were published, and by the way, there are many more, CUAD began getting a lot of backlash. So what did they do? They ended up deleting the Instagram post. If you attempt to click on any of those links, it's not available because the page has been removed. Now, unfortunately for CUAD, many people have screenshotted that original post. So here's what it says. Again, from CUAD, Columbia University Apartheid Divest. We are Westerners fighting for the total eradication of Western civilization. And then I already read this quote about standing in full solidarity, but then the second paragraph here, as the fascism ingrained in the American consciousness becomes ever more explicit and irrefutable, we seek community and instruction from militants in the global south who have been on the front lines in the fight against tyranny and domination which undergird the imperialist world order. I don't know about you, but to me that does sound like a threat to not just the Western civilization, but specifically to the American way of life. So yeah, I side with the Trump administration. Despite all of these facts, and despite the legal arguments being on the Trump administration side, Democrats and the media are predictably losing their minds. Well, unfortunately for them, Secretary of State Marco Rubio has an excellent rebuttal to all their flimsy arguments.
President Trump appealed to a lot of Americans during his campaign on free speech arguments and not suppressing speech, especially from the government. But your revocation of the green card, to many, is seen as one of the most anti-speech actions a secretary could take with his powers. How do you respond?
Yeah, when you enter this is an important point, and I'm glad you asked this question. When you come to the United States as a visitor, which is what a visa is, which is how this individual entered this country, on a visitor's visa, okay, you are here as a visitor. We can deny you that visa. We can deny you that if you tell us when you apply, hi, I'm trying to get into the United States on a student visa. I am a big supporter of Hamas, a murderous, barbaric group that kidnaps children, that rapes teenage girls, that takes hostages, that allows them to die in captivity, that returns more bodies than live hostages. If you tell us that you are in favor of a group like this, and if you tell us when you apply for your visa, and by the way, I intend to come to your country as a student and rile up all kinds of anti-Jewish student, anti-Semitic activities, I intend to shut down your universities. If you told us all these things when you applied for a visa, we would deny your visa. I hope we would. If you actually end up doing that, once you're in this country on such a visa, we will revoke it. And if you end up having a green card, not citizenship, but a green card as a result of that visa while you're here in those activities, we're going to kick you out. It's as simple as that. This is not about free speech. This is about people that don't have a right to be in the United States to begin with. No one has a right to a student visa. No one has a right to a green card, by the way. So when you apply for a student visa, or any visa to enter the United States, we have a right to deny you for virtually any reason. But I think being a supporter of Hamas and coming into our universities and turning them upside down and being complicit in what are clearly crimes of vandalization, complicit in shutting down learning institutions. There are kids at these schools that can't go to class. You pay all this money to these high-priced schools that are supposed to be of great esteem, and you can't even go to class. You're afraid to go to class because these lunatics are running around with covers on their face, screaming terrifying things. If you told us that's what you intended to do when you came to America, we would have never let you in. And if you do it once you get in, we're going to revoke it and kick you out.
100%. And like I referenced earlier in the video, the law is behind the Trump administration and Secretary of State Marco Rubio. According to Section 212, an alien whose entry or proposed activities in the United States, the Secretary of State has reasonable ground to believe would have potentially serious adverse foreign policy consequences for the United States, is inadmissible. Yeah, so there you have it right there. But again, as if that's not enough, the Supreme Court has ruled on this multiple times. So, Turner versus Williams. What this case was about was immigrants and illegal immigrants who happened to be anarchists. So, yeah, they wanted to overthrow the United States government because they didn't believe in any form of organized government. And in Turner versus Williams, SCOTUS found Congress was of opinion that the tendency of the general exploitation of such views is so dangerous to the public weal that aliens who hold and advocate them would be undesirable additions to our population, whether permanently or temporarily, whether many or few, and in the light of previous decisions, the act, even in this aspect, would not be unconstitutional as applicable to any alien who is opposed to all organized government. So, just in your mind, replace anarchists with these pro-Hamas sympathizers who have openly stated, thanks to their public Instagram account, that they want to, quote, overthrow Western civilization. How is that any different from wanting to overthrow the government? In fact, I would say that's even worse because Western civilization encompasses a lot more than just the government. It encompasses our values, our traditions, our ideals that we all strive for. So, yeah, again, I side with the Trump administration on this, and it is a shame that the Democrats and the media are all trying to garner sympathy for Mahmoud Khalil, who, again, CUAD isn't even trying to hide it. What's really terrifying is that Instagram account now has 50,000 followers. Really terrifying that many people apparently support what they're trying to accomplish here in the States. Now, there have been a lot of questions about whether or not these protesters were organic or paid for. There have been a lot of theories that the people who showed up are from Indivisible, which is a Soros-backed group. Indivisible's Musk or Us Actions reimbursement program. So they do get reimbursement, not just for attending these protests, but for travel costs, for printing costs, for lodging, for food, drinks. It is just absolutely crazy. Now, as I said, as I'm making this video, it might change. Who knows? Even by the time I publish it, it might be a completely different situation. But they are currently arresting people as I record this. Again, just kudos to the NYPD. They responded quickly, and their actions, I believe, prevented this from getting worse because it definitely could have been a lot more violent, a lot more dangerous for not just everyone in the hotel, but for the cops themselves. So I think they did a great job of diffusing the situation and taking quick actions. But as always, all of that is just my analysis and commentary. That is what's going on in the world of politics from my point of view, and I would love to hear from you. So what do you think about the arrest, the green card revocation, and the attempts to deport Mahmoud Khalil? Do you agree with the Trump administration? Do you think that he should be kicked out of the country for organizing not just these pro-Palestinian protests, but these Hamas-aligned protests? Or do you agree with the Democrats? Do you think that this is an infringement of the Constitution, an infringement of his First Amendment rights? Now, as I've laid out in this video, I do believe that the law is on Trump's side. We'll find out. A judge, he was supposed to be deported, I believe, yesterday, or they were beginning the process, and a federal judge has put a stop to that. So it's up in the air. I would not be surprised if this ends up going to the courts, and who knows, it may even go before the Supreme Court. I don't know, and it's with everything going on, it's impossible to predict. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. Do you agree with me? Do you agree with the Democrats? Are you somewhere in the middle? I always love reading everyone's comments. In yesterday's video, I talked a lot about inflation, and it was interesting hearing from all of you. I would say about 70% of you who commented about the economy, whether it was about gas prices, egg prices, grocery prices, I would say 70% of you have noticed a reduction in costs. You've noticed prices coming down, which the data supports that, right? About 30% of you said that you're not feeling it yet. In some cases, the prices are just holding stable. One of you, or actually two of you, one from Oregon, one from Chicago, said prices have gone up a little bit. But I'd say for 70%, it appears that prices are coming down, which is a good thing. And I hope for the other 30% that happens soon. But yeah, I just wanted to share that with you because it is cool to ask a question like this and get everyone's responses and sort of have a bird's eye view of what everyone is saying. So I'd really be interested to know your thoughts on this situation in regards to the Constitution and people's rights, both as citizens and non-citizens. If you haven't already, please be sure to give me a thumbs up. I know it's a simple thing to ask for, but it really does help me reach more viewers like you in the algorithm. Be sure to smash that subscribe button and to check out one of these videos.